Hey guys, so we're about a week and a half into Scourge League, and I've gotten my Toxic Rain champion to a point where he can do pretty much all content in the game comfortably, and I'm happy with my gearing choices and my skill tree, and I'll probably stop investing in this build. So, since we've hit this point, I thought I'd make a deep dive video going over my character so you guys have something to compare yourself to, and you guys have some ideas on how you can proceed with your Toxic Rain champion going forward. So I'll start off by bringing up my page on PoE Ninja. I think this is a great resource to be able to quickly see just like anyone's build and then compare it to everybody else who's doing the same skill. Now, I used to be in the top 20 DPS wise for Toxic Rain, and as you can see, I've fallen off. I'm no longer on the first page. First page ends at 578,000, and I am at 562,000. Now, this is partially because this is the most popular skill and there's tons of really good people playing it, but also keep in mind a lot of the people above me are sacrificing a lot of defensive layers that I've kept. So while looking at the highest people on the DPS list is definitely recommended for getting good ideas on how you can improve your character, keep in mind, especially on the passive tree, they're going to be making quite a few compromises in order to leverage those DPS numbers. So I suppose I could segue into my defensive layers right now. Let's bring up my path of building. So the most important defensive layer is the armor. I am at about 50,000. I think 50,000 is a sweet spot you want to try and aim for. Now, I'm 50,000 with my flask on. My flask is off, down to 33,000, but that's okay. 50,000, the reason why you want to hit that number, or at least try and just get it as high as you can, is because the higher you get it, up until a certain point, it will synergize with Vol Molten Shell. And armor by itself is very strong this league. Like, I'm negating 89% fizz damage, but because of how Vol Molten Shell works, this armor also blocks spell damage up until this point. So this is a very important defensive layer. I'm sure all gladiators can get this easily without sacrificing too much. Now the next defensive layer is spell suppression, and spell suppression is very tempting to drop because you can save quite a few skill points. If you don't have spell suppression on your gear, you have to spec up to here. It's 5 skill points and another in here if you want to get 10% extra. And then the problem with taking the one in here is you need to have a dex helm, a dex glove, and a dex boots, and that's not really ideal. But I was spec'd into here up until recently because it's kind of expensive to get it on your gear, so this is fine. It's just, you know, that's Very tempting to take off 5 skill points that deal no damage. The reason spell suppression is important is because it cuts all the spell damage you take in half if it's at 100%. Now I'm at 98%, and if I divine my chest, I can get it to 99%. It really should be at 100, but this is soft core, and I don't want to fiddle with my gear and swap stuff out just to get an extra 1%. So we're sticking with 98%. But again, try and get 100%. This is huge. Spell suppression is massive. Now the third layer of defense is evasion. We have 47,000 evasion, which translates into 84% evade chance. And when we jump into dangerous packs, especially when we switched over to Nightmare and there's a high blood counter, we enable Vol Grace along with Vol Molten Shell. The Vol Molten Shell blocks a lot of spell damage, and Vol Grace brings your evade chance up to 95%. So these are very huge defensive layers that will help you guys push the aspirational content. Now on the tree, since we're Gladiator, we have Fortify, which reduces all damage by 20%, although take note, this does not include damage over time. You guys might be spec'd into Conqueror. I think this is overrated. I would not take this. It's 10% reduced damage, which is nice, but the alternative, first to strike, last to fall, is just too sweet to miss, in my opinion. The way this works is when you drop below 50% HP, you get a buff called Adrenaline. It's a good DPS buff, but the reason I like it so much is it removes ailments, most importantly bleeding, ignite, and poison. As Gladiator, our biggest weakness is damage over time, which is ignite and poison. And the way to mitigate poison is with Chaos Res. We have 36%. I would love for this to be 75%, but I just don't want to invest anymore. It's kind of expensive to get this to 75%. And with Ignite, it's anti-ignite flask, but this is just kind of like an automated way to get rid of that. Alright, so those are the great defensive layers of this build. Now looking at the tree, it's pretty standard. I path up here, which is sometimes people opt not to do this and they path up into here. They take the chaos damage here. They path down here to entropy, which is good damage. Now for me, this just ended up being more damage. And the added advantage of going up here is this node is very, very nice, and the reservation efficiency is good quality of life when we're using so many auras. Now I'm using an Enlighten 3, and my mana is, I have 71 mana. The Defiance banner is free because of our ascendancy. Determination's 31% reservation. Malevolence 31%. Grace is 26%. So we're left with just a sliver. But it's enough. It's enough to be comfortable. Now onto gearing wise. On the tree, these are fairly standard clusters. This cluster is Touch of Cruelty, Unholy Grace, Wicked Pall. I believe it's pretty cheap. I haven't checked, but I would assume it's around 1 exalt. Maybe 2. And this has the best DPS for a large cluster. So it's pretty budget, relatively speaking, and it is just extreme value. So you guys should definitely invest in this rather than taking extra points on the tree. And these two medium clusters are also amazing value. It's Repeater and Shrieking Bolts on a projectile damage medium cluster, and these are very cheap to buy. I bought them for 30C at league start. I'm sure they're pennies now. Now, I do want to make note of an alternative to this large cluster that's slightly more expensive. Two of these mods are the same, Wicked Paul, Touch Cruelty, but instead of the third mod, you can get this really rare one called Unspeakable Gifts, and its enemies you kill have 10% chance to explode, dealing a quarter of their maximum life as chaos damage. So what this does is it adds pops into your build, and these will make mapping feel so smooth and so great. But look at the price tag. Like, this guy, I don't know if he's gonna sell for 4. I don't know why he listed it so cheap, but like it's expensive. 5x, 6x, 7x. There's only 4 online, and it's expensive because this explode mod is extremely rare. It's very hard to craft yourself, but that's an alternative. And another thing, while we have the POB open, is to optimize your damage. You need to get a specific AoE radius. Now, just seeing the number 21 isn't good enough. You need to go into calculations, select your toxic rain skill, find the area of effect radius, and it should read 1.39. And the reason I know that this is the exact breakpoint that you need is because it's a really smart guy, Remy Caster. He loves toxic rain. He does lots of research on it, and he found that if you hit exactly that radius, your pods they have the biggest AoE while shooting 5 arrows, like assuming you don't have the helm enchant, without expanding the AoE, because there's a breakpoint at 1.4 area of effect where not only will the area of effect of your pods be increased, but also your pods will be more spread out. And that, so you want to get as close to that breakpoint as possible without touching it. And the way I got 1.39, you know, I feel like I should go over this just because you're going to be struggling to figure it out, and it's actually pretty easy. So you get 20% for your bow mastery. You get a toxic rain with 20% quality, because 20% quality is 10% AoE. So now you're at 30% AoE. And the last 9% you get on your gloves, it's a prefix? It's an open prefix. Yeah, I know that. So the range is 8 to 10, and it costs 1 divine orb to craft this on your gloves, and it needs to be 9. Well, I suppose it could be 8, but it would be better if it was 9. It can't be 10. So, like, just ignoring these damage numbers, like, this radius will not change your DPS in Path of Building, but it will make it more likely that you get 5 overlapping pods instead of 4. So you see, when I have 4 pods, it's, well, with my flasks up, it's 6.4, or sorry, 6,400,000. But if I hit 5 pods, it's 8 million. That is a massive jump. So, you know, I would always just assume you're hitting 4, but if you get your AoE to the magic, or sorry, not the magic, the sweet spot at 39% increased area of effect, you will have the best odds of hitting all 5. Now, how we calculate the damage, there's the 4 overlapping pods, max withered stacks at 15, and frenzy charges. If you get your frenzy charges through Blood Rage, you cannot check this for bosses. Oh, also make sure you select Cyrus down here. If you don't select Cyrus, your numbers will be crazy, but it's not important. It's your boss damage that's important. You can only check the frenzy charge if you have a Redeemer chest that has chance to gain frenzy charge on hit. Alright, now let's go over the gear I'm wearing. This bow, there's a video on my channel of me crafting it. It shows the process. This is a deterministic craft, so you basically just have to pay around 11 exalted orbs and you can have the exact same bow. The only RNG is on the increased chaos damage over time. I got lucky and I hit T1, but you know, you can hit T4, it'll still be a great bow. Yeah, so this is around 11x investment. Keep in mind, if you build this bow, this is your just GG endgame bow, and it's based around having Empower, because it is +2 to level of socketed support gems, which in turn buffs your Empower. So my Empower is level 7 in here. And that Empower in turn buffs all your supports as well as your main skill. My Toxic Rain is level 30 because this bow is insane. This bow naturally brings it to 29 with an Empower 4, but on my amulet I have +1 to level of all chaos skill gems. This amulet is pretty GG as well. It has the chaos skill gems and it has T1 damage over time multiplier. The way you go about crafting this is you take a eye level, I believe 82 hunter amulet, preferably with strength and intelligence on the implicit. Mine has strength and dex, that's okay. And you harvest craft it with chaos. My helmet is just pure stats. This is just generic helmet, nothing special about that. My quiver has attack speed, damage over time multiplier with attack skills. This isn't very expensive. If I wanted to get an expensive quiver, you could also get another damage over time multiplier. So I'd have 3 damage mods. Those are pretty expensive. This is the league start. I'm happy with my build. I don't want to spend that currency. The boots, they have chance to suppress spell damage 16%. That is a T3 roll, so it could be higher. It has quite a bit of resist though. It has movement speed, it has life. This is a pretty good boot. It's nice to have spell suppression on here. You can get it on your boots, I believe your gloves as well, your helmet, your body armor. The more you can get on these, the easier it will be on your passive tree. Because, as we were talking about earlier, I haven't spent the 6 points in here. So that is 6 points I put into like the clusters and stuff. So my belt, it's just stats, there's no damage on here. The gloves, these are nothing too special. There's the chaos damage over time multiplier and attack speed for damage. The open prefix is really important for the area of effect. Now this body armor, it's going to be really hard to hit these rolls because spell suppression has no tag on it and chance to gain frenzy charge on hit has no tag on it. So you basically just have to chaos spam till you get these, and that's really hard. Which is why you will likely have to spend more points on your passive tree unless you get lucky. But yeah. If you can get spell suppression and frenzy charge, it is it's probably optimal. Like, I can't think of another chest that you'd prefer over this. The rings. Well, one of them's a Cursed Enemies with Despair on hit, which you just roll Caster on Harvest. I don't know what the eye level is. It's pretty low. This is a 76 ring. I believe you can use even lower than this, but the base is cheap. The important thing about the rings is they both have non-channeling skills have minus to total mana cost. And you can improve those values by using the catalyst, fertile catalysts. And I think this is massively important. I have it on both of these rings as well as the amulet. And that's how I have my Toxic Rain at 10 mana and my Toxic Rain totems at 0 mana. And this is just insane quality of life. I think that pretty much covers most of this build. Now, in terms... Oh, wait, no, hold on. There's another important thing. On the tree, there's no other gem. Replica Conqueror's Efficiency. This also reduces the cost of your spells by 9. I would definitely use this. The last thing would be this Watcher's Eye, which is 10 exalts. Damage over time multiplier while affected by malevolence, 20%. So, you know, it's not too crazy. It's like the same stat we have on our quiver, on our gloves, on our amulet. But I mean, that stat does add up. And it would be nice to have this Watcher's Eye. The problem is it's 10 exalts for a 1 mod Watcher's Eye. And it's only 10 exalts because Toxic Rain is the most popular skill. And it feels so bad spending 10 exalts on a 1 mod Watcher's Eye. Just because it's meta. So I'm not going to do it. My damage is good enough. As the league goes on, these are going to drop in price. I'd probably bite if they hit like 6 or 7x, which they will. Yeah, I hope you guys have got some inspiration from this build. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. I think this is a really fun league starter. It's a very solid build, but it does require a lot of investment for it to feel good. And this is my first time playing Toxic Rain. I honestly wasn't expecting it to need so much investment. But I didn't mind doing it, and after the investment, I'm quite happy. So now I get to enjoy the build. I am currently running T16 alleyways. I love the layout. And I'm scourging T1 haunted mansions just because that's the meta. So we're going to see how that feels. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. It's 24 minutes long. It's way longer than I usually make them. I'll see you guys around.